This all sounds very damp. Hey nerd, welcome to Little Lore, brought to you from where the streetlights end. A show where I tell you a little bit about whatever monster I think is cool this week. Today, I've got a gnarly aquatic creature that I think deserves a lot more attention than it seems to get. Before I jump into it, I must politely request that you hit that like button below, subscribe to my channel if you like folklore, history, and horror, and get your typing fingers ready to comment below and rip my proverbial head off if I say anything stupid. Let's go! Among the Inuit people of Alaska and northern Canada, there is a legend which tells of a humanoid creature, or humanoid creatures, that live in the water and hunt along the shorelines, ice floes, and rocky cliffs. There are many such critters that can be found in nature documentaries and biology textbooks. We've got big ol' seals, orcas, even polar bears hang out on the edges of the icy waters searching for their meals. These creatures that I'll be talking about today, however, can't be found in a list of aquatic life, and honestly, they've managed to be even more formidable and intimidating than a hungry polar bear. Poly bear. These creatures are actually completely horrifying, and they feed on something a little bit more troubling than fish. The monster that I've decided to upset you with today are called the Qalupalik. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Yell at me if I'm not. Qalupalik. Who dwell in the cold Arctic waters. When they are being described, or stories are being told of the Qalupalik, the primary focus tends to be on their habits, motivations, and behaviors more than on their appearance. However, the physiology of these gnarly bastards plays a significant role in their place within folklore. Like I mentioned earlier, these guys are humanoid. This means that they have a generally human-shaped shape. They've got themselves a nice round noggin, a torso with shoulders, hands, and feet. That is just about the end of their physical similarities with Homo sapiens, though. Aside from their basic skeletal structure, they've got very little in common with us. Because they live in the water rather than on land, there are evolutionary traits that they've developed to make them move more quickly through their environment and to blend in with their surroundings. They share many characteristics with other forms of aquatic life that are found in the Arctic regions. Their hands and feet, which are relatively human-like, have extremely long phalanges. That means their fingers and toes extend far beyond the expected length of human fingers and toes. Between them phalanges, there are thick webs. Think the hands of a frog, but probably nowhere near as cute. This makes their hands even more terrible, that they have the tips. Their tips are gnarly, curved claws, designed to help them grab onto and eviscerate their prey. The Qalupalik are described as having large fins on their backs and limbs, often jutting from the sides of their arms and the backs of their legs. They use these for the same thing that other water critters use them for moving quickly and quietly through the water. Some tales say that they have hair on their heads like humans do, but that it's thick and it resembles seaweed rather than being long, thin strands like what we have. From a scientific standpoint, this could simply be camouflage so that they can better blend in with their environment and their surroundings. It could also be that they are a sort of divergent evolution of primates, and that's just how hair ends up when you keep it in ocean water for enough generations. In many cultures around the world, there are stories of humanoid beings that live in the salty waters of the oceans, rivers, and seas. There are the deadly but beautiful sirens, and the gentler, more playful mermaids from more popular lore. The Qalupalik, which, falling into the same category of creature, stands on its own as such a frightening predator. Images of a more fishy, scaly, clawed version of the mermaid have been popping up more frequently as bored people on the internet have been getting more fun out of spreading false hoaxes and false hoaxes. That's redundant. And such with goofy photoshopped images. And honestly, the Qalupalik is described quite a bit like the critters in these goofy pictures. More unsettling than the physical appearance of these guys, however, is what they carry around with them. Upon their backs, they wear a traditional garment, which is worn by Inuit women, called an amautik. I hope I'm pronouncing that one right, too. This is sort of a large pouch/basket thing that is strapped around the body. It is used to easily carry children around, while maintaining the use of one's arms. We have the same things in modern Western European culture these days, but obviously it's not as cool as the traditional Inuit device. If you're the same kind of nerd I am, anyway. Now, why do you think a friggin' carnivorous mermaid monster might need one of those? You guessed it. The Qalupalik wears an amautik because its favorite activity is that of snatching up your kids from the edge of the water. There are many things that can be found while hunting along the rocky beaches along the shoreline. There are fishies, little clawed guys, mollusks of all kinds, but the Qalupalik's preferred prey is human children. Delicious, squishy, human children. There are variations of the Qalupalik legend, and it is noted in all of them that they actually eat the kids. Oh, it's not in all of my notes, I swear to God. It's not in all of the different versions of Qalupalik legends that they eat the children. They don't always eat children, according to the stories. There we go. Sometimes they do, though. In many versions of the tales, the children do straight up get munched on by these guys. But that isn't the only theory as to why these monstrous mermaids like to go out and collect children from the shoreline. Most stories say that these abducted children are promptly eaten by the Qalupalik. Other tales describe a hidden lair or cave below the ocean's surface where the creature will bring its victims. After the Qalupalik takes its catch back home to its underwater lair, it is said that it will put it under a sort of spell that puts the child into a trance-like state. The child will just kind of sit there catatonic, staring at the wall in silence. There's no way of knowing if the kids are aware of their surroundings during this time, or if they are lost in a dreamlike reality within their own minds. It is possible that the Qalupalik has a type of venom that can be found in their saliva or underneath their claws, which paralyzes their prey. A possibly less, maybe more, upsetting possibility is that the children don't even know that they have been captured, and are, like I said earlier, in a trance, where they will just sit blissfully unaware until they slowly and they expire, over time. like canned pork. It is believed that the Qalupalik do this because they do indeed feed on the children, but not in the traditional sense. Some say that while they do not eat the flesh of the children, they feed on their life force, slowly and steadily sucking the energy from the children. Perhaps this grants the Qalupalik a form of immortality or eternal youth, as they are absorbing the youth of these young humans. I wonder if they keep only one child at a time, or if there are caverns that can be found full of dozens of children frozen there, slowly being drained of their lives. That's a pretty creepy image in my head. Not much is known about what the Qalupalik do with their time outside of the hunt. Being vaguely human-like, it isn't a stretch to assume that they enjoy hobbies and leisure activities like primates do, and like other animals will if their environment and diet allow it. However, we don't know much about what these guys like to do for fun, or even if they are solitary creatures or pack animals. I have been unable to find any stories that discuss how social they are or might be, but there is much talk of how we, as land-dwelling and apparently delicious creatures, do not want to run into them. So they're not very friendly. It is said that you can tell the Qalupalik are near and on the hunt because you will hear an ethereal hum rising up from the water along the shore. This hum sounds like nothing else you will find along the Arctic beaches. There is a deep, low, resonating hum that will warn you that you are in danger. However, if you are unable to quickly move away from the water, it may be too late for you by the time you hear it in the first place. Those who disregard this ominous sound will be snatched up by its deadly claws and dragged down beneath the frigid waves. Although the Qalupalik prefers the delectable flavor of small children, I have found nothing which suggests they are averse to the taste of adults. Whether you be small or large, young or old, it is wise to avoid wandering along the edge of the icy water on your own. Much of the information to be found on the internet regarding the Qalupalik is a different way of saying the same things. While there are now many articles and videos that have been made about this truly interesting creature, most all of it repeats the same limited information. Myself, my old article that I've written, and this video are no exception. I really haven't been able to tell you anything that anyone else hasn't. I hope I've at least been entertaining about it, though. This lack of variety in the information is likely the result of the Inuit stories being forgotten, like those of many indigenous peoples. The old, culturally significant stories of indigenous people have been shared orally since the dawn of time, and when Europeans came and decided that it should not be permitted to speak our native languages, or share our cultural stories in the open, much of our old tales were left behind in history. This is one of the saddest things I come across, not only when studying history, but also when studying folklore. Then again, it is possible that even in the older stories that were shared before a single European even set foot on the American continent, that the Qalupalik didn't have a particularly complicated or intricate backstory in the first place. This creature falls into a particular category within folklore and mythological studies, that of the bogeyman. Most creatures that we tell stories about, which eat or abduct children, are classified as types of bogeymen. Creatures like this tend to be created for the very utilitarian, or practical, purpose of scaring children away from dangerous activities that could get them killed. The running theme with Qalupalik is that you don't want your child near the edge of the water, and you don't want to be alone near the edge of the water yourself. You especially don't want a child all alone right at the edge of the water. Even in more forgiving climates, with calmer seas, it's generally good advice for children not to play around the edge of deep water on their own. Up in the Arctic, that's especially true. There really are animals out there looking for their dinner, including orcas, which will straight up launch themselves onto the beach and gobble things up before you even know what hit ya. The water is so cold that even just a few minutes submerged can kill you from hypothermia, and with the freezing environment, there is slippery ice all over the place, craggy rocks, and jagged shorelines that are very easy to slip off of. All this to say, you really don't want to be wandering around right by the edge of the Arctic Sea or whatever all alone. And you really don't want your kid to wander off alone and find themselves slipping into the ocean. One surefire way to make sure kids know how dangerous something is to tell them that there is a horrifying monster over there that wants to eat them. This is a classic and honestly very important type of creature in our stories, and I think in the case of Qalupalik, we can see very clearly how stories like these can be helpful for people. Kids often like to consider themselves very capable and maybe even indestructible, so they may not take you seriously when you say they might slip or freeze or fall into the water. They will, however, take something like the Qalupalik seriously, because a monster is a monster is a monster. That's all I've got for you today. This one is a little bit different from the other monsters I've been talking about lately, so I hope it was a fun change of pace. If you want more monsters, folklore, horror, and history from me, subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button if you like what I do, and comment down below to join in the conversation. Check out my Patreon if you want more content, if you want to vote in polls, get personal updates, and sometimes I even make cool things and send them to people on there.